Turned on, I think. All right. So, in our last session, we have discussed about IAM, right? So first we have discussed how to create an AWS account, right? So AWS account creation is easy only, not so typical. So it involves with you need to give your email ID, you need to set a password, you need to give an account name. So then um, you need to give your contact information like address and all. So then you need to give the payment information, your credit card information or debit card information. So then you need to verify your identity by giving your phone number or email address. You will get a code, enter that code. All right. So then after you need to choose a support plan. So we have basic support plan, business support plan, developer support plan, and enterprise support plan. Basic is free. Developer is $29. Business is $100 one. Enterprise is $15,000 one. So based on our requirement, we need to choose the required support plan, and you guys choose basic support only. So then you can create an account. That's the final step. Then you can log into your AWS account. Whatever the email ID you have used, if you are logging by using that email ID, so then technically you call that login as a root user login. Okay. So one AWS account will be associated with one email ID. So that means one root user for an AWS account. Can we have multiple root users in an AWS account? The answer is no. The answer is no. Why? Because you're using only one email address to create an account, right? If you're using another email address, you can create another AWS account. Both are different AWS accounts. So we cannot have multiple root users in an AWS account. We are going to have only one root user. Okay. So, but to ease our administration task to segregate, user with respect to their job roles and all, what we can do, we can depend on another user called IAM users. IAM user is designed to say all the IAM users will be in same AWS account. It supports up to 5,000 IAM users. Okay. So these IAM users mainly we can create and we can provide permissions. We can provide permission. Okay, user one is there. He want to work on storage. So you want to give full permission on only one specific service called S3. So then simply you can create an IAM user within same AWS account. While creating, you associate a policy. The policy is going to allow him to perform anything in the S3. Okay. So similar way, you create different user, you gave that permissions. So, we will create some more users in today's session. So what we did in our last session, we even have enabled multi-factor authentication. We have enabled multi-factor authentication, MFA. Okay. So this multi-factor authentication is a additional step for our login process. Additional step for our login process. Okay. So, you can use your smartphones. You can purchase a physical device. You can authenticate the device with your AWS account. So whenever after entering your username and password, okay, you need to enter 6-digit PIN number generating in that application. Either it is a Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, or the two-factor authenticator, right? So you need to enter that 6-digit PIN number, then it allow you to log in. Okay. So how to activate that is another thing we have discussed in our last session. Okay. So here in today's session, we are going to start with IAM. In last session, I created one user that to just give an overview. Okay. So here in today's session, I'm going to create an IAM user. And while we are logging as an IAM user, it is asking us to set a password, right? So generally, we are not sure what password that IAM user is setting, whether it is a complex password or simple password. We really don't know, right? We can even define that password policy. We can define the password policy, okay? So how to set up that password policy? So that we will discuss here in today's session. All right. So yeah. Okay. So here I'm logging to my AWS account as a root user. I've selected root user option here. Whatever the email ID I have used to create this AWS account, I'm selecting it. Then click on next. And the password, I'm giving the password here. So as I already enabled multi-factor authentication, it's asking me to enter that 6-digit PIN number. So I'm opened my mobile application, whatever the PIN number it is generating, I'm entering that PIN number. Okay, I have successfully logged into my AWS account. Now I'm working as a root user. So root user will have unrestricted access on this AWS account, full access. Even closing the AWS account also possible for this root user. So I don't want to give this root user credentials to all the team members working along with me. Or this root credentials generally it will be with project manager. He is not going to share that credentials with us. So what he is going to do? He is going to create an IAM user. Okay. So we are going to log into our AWS accounts as an IAM user. You never work as a root user in your organizations. Okay. So navigate to IAM. Navigate to IAM. And here in left pane, we have users. So if you already have any users, you can have, by defaultly, it's going to be 0. You're not going to have any user. Okay. So first it will tell us whether root user have MFA or not. If root user don't have MFA, it will give a error mark here. It will give an exclamatory mark here. It is always recommended to enable multi-factor authentication for root user. Okay. So now I want to create an IAM user. For that, navigate to left pane users, add a user. So now, couple of things like, generally username, it depends on organization standards. So in some projects, right, they are going to give first name and your first letter of your name and surname. And some companies, right, they will use employee ID, or some organizations, they will use email IDs as a usernames. So here, for easy understanding purpose, I'm going to create a user who have administrator access in this AWS account. Now you might get it out. Hey Avinash, you are saying root user. So the root user and administrator is both users are same. Technically, almost similar permissions. But this admin is equivalent to root user, but he won't get account management permissions like a closing AWS account, changing payment methods, or changing support plan. Such type of options this guy won't get. Why? Because he's an IAM user with admin access. IAM user is different, root user is different. So equivalent to root user, but without account management option. Okay, so let's go, and I'm going to create a admin user now. I'm calling this user as a admin. Okay, so then what type of access you want to give to AWS account? We have two types of accesses, guys. One is browser option. Second one is command line option. One is browser option and second one is command line option. So when coming to this browser, you can use a browser. You are going to have a username and password. You can log in and you can see how things are working. Same operations we can do with the help of command line also. CLI, command line interface. Okay, so you can install a small tool called AWS CLI tools. So there, if you want to access AWS, you no need to use username and password. We are going to have a different component called access key ID and secret access key. So if you are selecting the first option, you are going with the CLI method. If you are selecting second option, you are going with the browser option. If you want, you can enable both. Okay. If you want, you can enable both for an IAM user. Otherwise, you can choose either of the one. It's your choice. Okay. So now, generally what happens? So if you are using a programming language like a Python or Java or PHP, so you want to deploy something to AWS environment programmatically. If you want to access AWS, again, these access key ID and secret access key will be used. Access key ID and secret access key will be used. We have a dedicated session on this. Don't worry about this now. Okay. So if you want, I can show you how exactly it looks like. I'll show you, but we have a dedicated session on this. So I'm selecting access keys as well as browser. Both options I'm selecting. Now, whatever the user we are creating, this user need to set up with a password. Need to set up with a password. The password, we are going to select an auto-generated password. AWS will give a random password. I can use that password to log in as this admin user. Or I'm going to share this password to admin user. Okay. So now, while that admin user is logging, I'm enforcing him to create a new password. I'm forcing him to create a new password. But now a question. Okay, we are enforcing him to create a password, but what is that password complexity we want to define? Whenever you are creating a Gmail account, you've seen you need to set up a password, right? The password must contain one uppercase, one lowercase, one special character or number, and it must minimum length is 8 characters length. So similar way, while these IAM users are logging to our AWS account, I also want to set up a password policy. All IAM users must maintain that password complexity. Okay. Otherwise, I don't want to allow them to log in or create a new password. Okay. So for that, we have an option called I'll show you. Once this creation is completed, I'll show you that. Okay. Password policy is an option. So click on next. Now you're creating a user, fine, but what permission this user is going to get? So we have a component called policy. Policy is nothing but a document that contains set of permissions in our AWS environment. Policy is a document that written in JSON format. Okay, it contains set of permissions. So if you observe this third option, attach existing policies directly, we have 864 policies here. In your case, it's going to be a bit less. I created some custom policies. Again, we have three types of policies. One is AWS managed job function. Second one is AWS managed. Third one is a customer managed. Okay. For example, the first one is a policy. It's nothing but a set of permissions on AWS environment or AWS account. For example, you are creating an IAM user. You want to provide him storage. He is basically a storage admin. You want to provide storage access to this guy. What is the storage service in AWS? S3. So we have a policy called S3 full access. If I associate this policy to this IAM user, what happened? He will get full access on S3 service. Apart from S3, he cannot access any other things. Okay, that I'll talk, evaluation. Now, you want to create another IAM user. So you want to give compute is basically a compute admin or a system admin in simple. All the systems you want to manage. Okay, so then we have a service called EC2. There is a policy called EC2 full access. So you associate that policy. So what we are doing here, we are following least privileges mechanism. Least privileges mechanism means provide access he really required to perform his job. No less, no more permissions. Don't give less permission. He will come to you. Okay, I'm not able to do that. I'm not able to do this. Don't give more permissions. He will do additional activities that will put you in trouble. Why? Why? Because you created that user. Right. So go and always follow least privileges mechanism. So, I can achieve same thing by giving administrator access. There is a multiple policy types in AWS. The first one is AWS managed, but job function. So generally in market, some standard jobs are there, like system administrator, database administrator, network administrator, right? Data science engineer, power user. So these are some standard job roles. So, but what happens, basically this job function means AWS itself taken some common jobs, they combine the permissions and they are releasing these. You cannot delete, you cannot modify. If it is not satisfying with your requirement, you go and create one. Okay. So the second one is AWS managed policy. This is based on the service. Based on service. For example, you take a service S3, all the possible ones. For example, S3 read only, S3 full access, S3 access to other services. AWS itself is evaluating all the possible scenarios and they are giving all the policies. So these two managed by AWS. We cannot alter. That means we cannot modify. We cannot delete. We cannot change. If, so for example, something is not you are not able to perform some activities, you are not satisfied with the policies AWS given. In this scenario, you can go and create your own policy. For that, we basically call it as a custom policy. Custom policy. So customer created. We can modify, we can delete if required. So these are the three types of policies. Okay. So again, 800 policies are there. Are you going to remember all those? Not really required. Some policies you need to pay some attention. I'll talk now. So the first one is administrator access. So this administrator access will allow, you see, this is the first one. It provides full access to AWS services and resources. It provides full access. Okay. So in simple, his administrator access is nothing but root user minus account management. He is equivalent to root user, but he cannot change support plan. He cannot close account. Such type of activities he cannot do. Okay. So that is a administrator access policy. Now, second one, we have power user. We have power user access. So this power user access is equivalent to administrator, but without user management. Now, whoever have this administrator access, he can create another user. He can create another user in AWS account. He can delete a user. Okay, but now I need a user who get full permission on all the services, but this user should not create any other user. If your requirement is that, so then you can go with the power user access. You read this similar to this, right? Both are same till here. Both are same, but does not allow management of users and groups. So in simple, power user means administrator access minus IAM. He won't get permissions on IAM, remaining all service he can perform. He can work on. Okay. So that is another thing. One more, like a read only. So you know what exactly read only, right? You scroll down to bottom, somewhere here. Read-only access. It provides read-only access to all the AWS services. So this guy cannot modify anything, but he can view all the services available in AWS. Okay. So just remember these for now. On top of this, whatever the services you are going to take, like, for example, you want to work on one service called S3. So you go and search S3 here. So you see total 38 available ones are there. And you see some are with this AWS logo, some don't have this AWS logo. So whatever the policy is given by AWS, so these we can go and choose. If these are not satisfying your requirement, you can create and you can use this. See the type? It's a customer manage. I created this manually. So I'm going to use it. Okay. So how to filter this? You go to filter policies. Here, customer managed. I created 96 policies. AWS, based on the services, they have given 760. The third one is AWS managed job function. Okay. So you see this job function policies. Okay. So if you observe this, you can see here, we have administrator access. We have billing access. We have database administrator. If you observe this, the database administrator is going to have permissions on multiple services, not only one service. Okay. If you expand this database administrator, you can find what are the services he is going to get access. See, some services he is getting full access. You see this? Full access. Remaining some services, he is getting limited access. So instead of spending hours and hours to prepare this policy, AWS itself is giving, based on standard jobs we have in market, AWS is giving these policies. Okay. So these kind of job function ones. If any database administrator joins, you simply give this. Okay. So these are the job function ones. Now, for this administrator user, I'm going to give administrator access user permission. Again, these permissions you want to give directly to the user, or you want to copy permission from an existing user. But he's our first user, right? So the third option is add user to group. So when coming to this third option, you can create a group, add permission to group level. Okay, permissions comes from group level. So then add this user. Okay, so click on create group. I'm going to call this as a admins group. Even in future, if any guy is joining and if he required similar permissions, I can simply take him and I can add that user to this group. It's easy to manage. So for group level, I'm giving administrator access. Then click on create group. Now a group is creating. Okay, I'm adding this user to a group. Then click on next. Now tags. If you want to provide any tags, you can give the shopping example here. You know, you want to purchase one shirt, but there is no tag attached. You don't have some information like a pricing, washing instructions, manufactured year, all those information you don't have, right? But if you have a tag, you don't need to call any sales executive. You can view the tag and you can get all the required information. Okay, so same way here, for what project we are creating. For example, for a demo session, I'm creating this. And like, another one, who created this? Okay, Avinash created this. Right. So such type of all metadata. Basically, we call this as a metadata. What exactly metadata means? Data about the data. So logic is, the mechanism is simple. For example, I have a file called demo.txt. If I open that, I have all this data. But I do have some information about this demo.txt, right? When this file is created, who modified, where this is stored. Whenever we go to this get info or properties, we can find all this information, right? So technically, we call this as a metadata. So such type of customer managed metadata, we can give by using tags. Okay. Then click on review. Now we selected a username. We selected both access types, auto generating the password, and he need to set a password. Permission boundary is our tomorrow session topic. Okay, what permissions he is going to get, what policy is going to get, and what tags he is going to get. So click on create user. Now our first IAM user is created here. So we need to log in as this user. This is a sign-in URL. And also, whatever information you got here, you can download that entire information as a Excel sheet or CSV format file. I downloaded this to my local laptop. Okay, so now let's open this. Now I told you that, okay, now this user is going to log in. But he might set up a weak password, right? Why? Because while I'm creating this user, I have selected enforce password creation option. While user is logging, he must create a new password. Correct. So now I have another question, like, what if he's setting a weak password? Who is responsible for that? Obviously, I am responsible for that. So I can navigate to account settings. See, this is a default password policy. This is a default password policy. The first one is minimum password length is 8 characters. I want to change it. I want to set to 10 characters. I can do that. The second one is include a minimum of 3 of the following: uppercase, lowercase, number, and one of the special character. So then another one must not be identical to your account name or email address. Okay, so so I want to change these settings. So click on change password policy. So then we can set up, okay, Whenever IAM user is logging, his password length must be 10 characters. So then it required at least one uppercase letter. It required at least one lowercase letter. Required at least one number. At least one non-alphanumeric character they mentioned here. Enable password expiration. Whenever we are logging to these AWS accounts, so whatever the password we are set up, the password will automatically expire based on the defined date. For example, you guys know net banking, right? So generally net banking, for every 90 days, they will ask you to create a new password because of this password expiration policy. Okay. So for every 60 days, the password is going to expire. So then password expiration require administrator reset. If password is already expired, we cannot reset. We cannot this guy cannot create a new password. Okay. So you must contact administrator or whoever have admin access in AWS account, you must contact him. That guy is going to reset. Okay. So that is in our hand. So allow users to change their own password. If this option is selected, they can change the password. I'll show you how they can change. The last option is prevent password reuse. So the system will remember your last 2 used passwords or 3 used passwords. Okay. For example, so for now you have set up a password as a 123. The password got expired. So you set up password expiration period as 60 days, right? What happened after 60 days? The password is going to expire. Now you need to set up a new password. So what we will do? Intelligently, we'll try to give same password. But will system accept that? It will tell, okay, your current password should not be same as your previous password. Okay, fine. You are going to give 423 now. It will accept. Again, what happened? After 60 days, again password will expire. Here, password reuse policy is set with 3. Now, again, what we will do? We'll try to give 123 again. Generally, we'll have a common password, right, for across the account. Okay. So, we'll try to give that again. But system is already remembering this. So, you are not allowed to set your last 3 used passwords. It won't allow. It won't allow. So, again, you need to give something like, 723. This will accept now. So then again password will expire for 60 days. If I give 123, will system allow now? No. System is remembering your last 3 passwords. So whatever new password you are setting here, that equal to one of the last 3 password, right? How it will accept? No. So again you need to give different password like, Now if you want to give, okay, you can give 123. Why? Because system remembered only last 3 passwords. Okay. So that is a password reuse mechanism. Here, I'm going to give 2. You're not allowed to set up last 2 used passwords. System will remember your last 2 passwords. If it is a SBI or SDFC, 3. You cannot set up last 3 used passwords for net banking. Okay. So then click on save changes. So whenever any IAM user, as I told you, within this account, we can create 5,000 users, right? Whenever any IAM user is logging, whenever he is setting up a password, his password must follow this complexity we have set up. Otherwise, it won't allow us to log in. Okay. So here, I got the file. I'm going to log in as this user. But you observe this URL. This is a URL we need to use to log in. Okay. But this URL is definitely a bit difficult to remember. Why? Because it's picking a 12-digit account ID here. So remembering numbers is obviously not easy for our human brain. But strings, okay. How many contacts you have in your phone? 800, 200, 400. Difficult to remember, right? 800. Have you got 800 contacts? Okay. So, it's difficult to remember. So we are masking with a name, right? Similar way. I want to mask an alias name for this. You know what exactly alias? The Naxalites. Right. So they are going to have aliases, right? Mainly. Okay. So, another name. To hide their identity, they are adding another name. Okay. Similar way, instead of this 12-digit account ID, for easy remember purpose, we can add a custom name for this. Where we can do that? If you navigate to IAM dashboard, you observe this right side here under AWS account. You see, this is the account ID. Whenever we create an AWS account, by defaultly we will get a 12-digit account ID that is unique across the globe. Once it is allocated to one account, right? It won't allocate it to any other user. Even if you want to, if you want to share one server from one account to another account, we will use this. Or whatever the user we are creating an account one, he want to log into account two, yes, we can give that permissions. So the uniqueness actually comes with this 12-digit account ID. We cannot customize it. Whatever AWS is giving, you need to go with it. So below to that, we have an option called account alias. Okay. So that is what I'm talking now. Instead of this number, we can set an alias. For that, you see here, there is an option called create. Click on create and give a preferred alias name. Okay. It should not exceed more than 63 characters. And no uppercase letters, only lowercase letters. So I'm trying to give Avinash. This is going to be new sign-in URL. When I click on save changes, it's giving an error. Why? Because Avinash is already used. Okay, so I'm going to give Avi's way. This is also already used for my another AWS account. Avi's way 1, that is also used. So whatever the name you are giving here, it must be unique. Okay, if someone already picked that, you cannot use it. So click on create. I'm going to give Avi's way 9. This is available. I'm going to click on save changes. Now, this is a URL we got. Now, if I want to, I can, we can use either of the URL now, the above one or below one. Okay, so even if you are pasting this in browser, you see, instead of number, it is picking the alias name automatically. So alias we can easily remember, right? So same thing here. So now if you want to log in as an IAM user, you no need to copy these URLs, you no need to paste. Simply give aws.com, then click on sign in. It will ask us, you want to log in as a root user or IAM user? I want to log in as an IAM user. Here you need to give 12-digit account ID or alias name. My alias name is Avisway9. I'm giving that here. Then click on next. Now it is asking me to enter username and password. So whatever the username is admin, and the password, auto-generated password. So admin is a username. Given the password, then click on sign in. Now it is enforcing me to create a new password. Okay, so I'm giving the password here, old password, new password. I'm just setting up 12345. 12345. When we click on confirm password change, you see here, either you're not allowed to change the password or entered password does not comply with password policy set by administrator. Second one is the matching case here. But yeah, AWS need to give that options here. Like, one uppercase, one lowercase, they need to give tick marks. That is lacking here. Okay, so I'm going to set up a password that comply with the password policy setup by root user. So then it is allowing me to log in. Okay, So fine, I have logged into my AWS account. Okay, 1 second, guys. All right. Yeah. So here I logged in as this IAM user. Now, this IAM user, he have administrator access. You see, he have administrator access. Now, he can go to EC2, he can go to S3, he can go to IAM. He can do whatever he want in this AWS account. But can he change the support plan? Let's see. I'm navigating to a service called support. I'm navigating to support. Okay. So current plan is basic. Let me click on change. Okay. So now I'm trying to change. Review upgrade. I want to upgrade to developer support plan. Click on review upgrade. So when I click on accept and agree, I have enabled different setting actually. I disable it, but it not taken effect. But this guy generally, whoever have this access, right? He generally, he cannot change the support plan. Okay. So this guy cannot change the support plan. Why? Because he's a root user. He's not a root user. He's a IAM user. Not only that, this guy cannot close the AWS account also. Generally, if this guy is navigating or trying to access account information, generally, if he's trying to access account information, now it take an effect. Okay. I enable for different purpose. So if I'm navigating to services like a billing, is he able to see billing? But he have administrator access, but he's not able to see the billing. Okay. So he's equivalent to root user, but he cannot change the support plans. He cannot view the billing information and all. So that is a first option. Now I want to change this guy's permissions. Currently we have given administrator access, right? But I changed my mind. So this guy, what he's doing, he's creating another users, another IAM users also. So I want to remove these permissions. I want to give power user access. So here is a remove option, remove from group. So this guy, now admin user. Okay. So if we log in as admin user now, he won't get any permissions. Why? Because no policy associated. I've logged in here. I'm navigating to EC2. No permissions. I'm navigating to S3. No permissions. So he won't get access to any of the service. Why? Because no policy is there. Even if we navigate to IAM also, no permissions, nothing. Okay. So policy will give permission to perform activities on AWS account. That's what I mentioned. Policy is nothing but a set of document contains permissions on our AWS account. Now, I'm going to add permission. Click on add permissions. Attach existing policy directly. I'm going to give power user access. I'm selecting power user access. Then click on review. Then add permissions. Okay. So now this guy have power user access. As I told you here in this document, power user is equivalent to administrator minus IAM. So this guy now he can go to support plans and he can do whatever he wants, raise a ticket and all. He have access on S3, he have access on EC2, but let's verify his access on IAM. I'm giving a refresh here and you see, can he create a new user? No. So the reason or mechanism here is, okay, So he can work on any other service apart from IAM. So that is the power user access. Read only access, you know what exactly it means, right? You want me to demonstrate that? He can read anything, he cannot create any resource. So that is a read only access. That is a read only access in our AWS account. Now, when coming to these policies, so the policy evaluation. So for example, when I'm creating a user, for example, I'm creating an S3 admin now. I'm creating an S3 admin. I'm setting up a password. I'm going with a custom password. Not even enforcing this user. And permissions, I'm going to give S3 full access to this user. Not adding any tags. Review, create user. So now, while creating this user, I have given S3 full access. Am I talking about any other services here? I'm not saying, okay, you don't have access on these services and all. I'm not talking anything about any other services. Whatever access this guy required, I'm providing that permissions only. So once he log in, he can access only those services, not any other service. So basically, we call this mechanism as a implicit allow. Implicit allow means whatever service that guy required, gave that access. Then he will access that service only. The logic is very simple. You paid fees for AWS course. You're not talking anything about remaining courses like a Java, .NET, Python, PHP and all. You want AWS, you pay fees for AWS, they will allow you to attend AWS session. Correct. So technically it is an implicit allow. If you go to Java batch, will they allow you? Okay. Why? Because, you have permission to attend this session only. So technically that is implicit allow. Okay. So let me log in to show you that. So now I've logged into this AWS account. I'm navigating to S3. I can see the resources I have here. But if I'm going to any other services like EC2 and all, see all errors. It's not showing anything. When I click on something, instant types and all, issue encountered. Okay, he's not able to work on. So basically that is implicit allow. If you want to give 2 service permissions, add 2 policies. For example, to this S3 admin, I want to give S3 permissions, EC2 permissions. So then simply go to S3 admin, add permission option always there, select add permission, go to attach existing policies directly. I'm giving EC2 full access, review, add permissions. So now this guy have S3 full access, EC2 full access. He can access 2 services now. Okay. Now my requirement is I want to provide full access to one of the user, administrator access, but I don't want to allow him to access one service. The logic is very simple, guys. I want to give full access to an user, but I don't want him to access IAM. I don't want to allow him to create a user, or I don't want to allow him to work on S3 service, a specific service. In this scenario, we don't have any policy available in AWS. We don't have any such type of policies. My requirement is administrator minus S3. Okay. So do we have any? If you navigate to policies, if you search for Denny, you see only one is there. These two, that is a customer managed one. These 2 customer managed one, and we can delete it. So generally, if it is a AWS managed one, can we delete? No, I'll show you that. Now I'm selecting this. I'm deleting some, and these are deleting successfully. The reason, it is a customer managed. This is AWS managed. If I want to delete this, I can select that. Do I have delete option here? If I want to attach to any user, I can go and attach. But detach or delete, disable. But this delete is disabled because of it is a AWS managed ones. Even you cannot modify if you select here. So it is showing whatever the script you have here, whatever the policy you have here, it is showing that policy. But do we have any option like edit here? No edit option. So we have only one, that is Denny. But my requirement is, okay, let's write down that requirement here. My requirement is provide administrator access, but not on S3, or else except S3, all service access required for this user. Fine. So whatever the user you want to work, I'm going to, okay, let me create a user now. Add user. I'm going to call this user as a task 1 user. I'm going with the password, custom password. Not even enforcing him to create a new password, just to save some time, nothing more than that. Now, I'm going to attach administrator access. Review. So I created a user. But Denny S3 is my requirement, right? So this administrator access will allow this user to access all the services we have in AWS, including S3. Including S3, he can access all the services. So let me log in as a user. Okay, so I logged in as that user, navigating to S3. And you see here, I'm able to see all the resources. This should not happen. That is what the requirement. For that, even if you go to policies, as I told you, there is no Denny. Denny S3 is there. When I search for Denny, there is no Denny S3. So we must create a customer managed policy. That is a custom requirement. So let's create a policy now. Here is an option, create policy. Click on create policy. Now this is a policy creation. So whatever the options you are going to select here, based on these options, backend JSON generates automatically. Okay, so you no need to write from scratch. You choose options from Visual Editor. So what service? S3 service. I'm selecting S3. Okay, but are we creating this policy for allowed operations or denied? But here, you see, specify the actions allowed in S3. I want to create it for Denny, but it is showing as an allowed operation. So for that, fetch to Denny permissions. Click on this fetch to Denny permissions. You see here, Denny S3. Specify the actions denied in S3. What options you want to Denny? I'm selecting all. And on all resources. Don't worry about these resources now. I'm selecting all actions on all resources. Then scroll down, click on next. Review, give a name. So I'm going to call this as a Denny S3. Description, Denny everything in S3 service. Okay, so scroll down, click on create policy. Now a policy created. Fine, we haven't associated this policy to any user. Okay. So if it is a customer managed policy, you do have an option to edit this. You see here, edit policy. If it is a AWS managed, you don't have that option. Now policy usage. If you want to attach, you can attach from here. Otherwise, go to users. To which user you want to attach, select the user and add permissions, attach existing policy directly, search for Denny. Denny S3 is there. There is no AWS logo. That means it's a customer managed one. select that customer managed one, review, add permissions. Now, for this user, a conflict is happening. Administrator access is allowing S3, but this Denny S3 is denying S3. Which one is going to take effect? Denny S3? Denny will always have highest priorities in AWS. You allow 100 times, but you said Denny only one time, Denny will take effect. You allow 100 times also, but if you said Denny once, Denny will take effect. Okay, so let's verify that now. So far, we are able to see these buckets and all. Let me give a refresh. It's saying no such buckets. Is these options are enabled? Create bucket, delete bucket. And even if you expand this account snapshot, you don't have permissions. So this guy, again, if we go to another services like a EC2, IAM and all, he will have access to all other services. Even multiple levels allowing, one level is denying, again, Denny is going to take effect. For example, see, I'm going to create a group. I'm going to create a group now. I'm calling this group as a S3 admins. I'm going to add the same user to S3 admins group and I'm going to give S3 full access. Then create a group. Now, if you're taking this task one user, here you just observe this. Administrator is giving S3 access. Amazon S3 full access, from group also giving S3 access. Even manually I'm giving S3 full access. So you just observe this. So out of 4 policies, 3 allowing S3, administrator allowing S3, Amazon S3 full access directly attached is allowing S3. From groups we have S3 full access, that is also allowing S3. But one policy is set up to deny that. Now let's see which one is going to take effect. Obviously, deny. Once you added deny, it will take that condition as a explicit deny. Explicit deny means you allow 100 times, it doesn't matter. If you deny once, deny is going to take effect. Okay? So that is a deny mechanism. So whenever any conflict happen, within these policies, if policy 1 is allowing, policy 2 is allowing, no issue. Okay, policy 1 is allowing, policy 2 is allowing, no issue. But policy 1 is allowing, 2 is denying, which one is going to take effect? Deny is going to take effect. Okay, so that is a mechanism here. Right. So, any questions on these policies? If you have any questions, we can discuss on these policies. To restrict a user for specific policy, we will create a custom policy with Denny, right? Yes, Raghuvira. Can a read-only user see account management settings like a payment support plans and all? He can see support plans, but he cannot see account payment information and all. So basically, any IAM user, for example, this guy is an administrator user, right? Can he see my account information? When he navigate to account, you see, he's not able to. Can he see previous bills? He cannot. So, account information by default, he cannot see. I hope that answers your question, Ganesh. Right. So this is a policy mechanism and policy evaluation. Okay. So it's always important, guys. Throughout this course, we are not going to use root account. From next session itself, I'm going to use an IAM user. I'm creating one user now. The same user I'll use throughout the course. Add user. I'm going to give username as Avinash underscore T. I'm going to set up my own custom password. Okay. So I'm going to allocate administrator access to myself. I'm going to use same user throughout the course. Okay. Yeah. So you guys also first create an AWS account. If you haven't created, create right away and start practicing IAM. Okay. So in our next session, we will discuss some additional options like, we have on top of this that we will discuss like, for example, uh, like, policy simulator. And we have an option here. This is we have an option credentials report. While creating this account, we have another option like permissions boundary, inline policies. These all options we will discuss in our next session. That means tomorrow we'll discuss that. To restrict a user for specific policy, we will create a custom policy with Denny, right? It's mandatory. I think that's what I mentioned, right, Raghuvira? So, okay, you either follow one mechanism. Okay, so you give policies like, whatever the services that user want to access, you associate policies related to that. Okay, so then he can access only that. Otherwise, give full access. Which one is you want to Denny? You Denny to that. You create a policy for Denny and you associate that. So here in our case, the easiest one is that instead of allowing like, each and every service policy, even user have a limit. He can have, I believe, 50 policies only, not more than that. So in that scenario, we have 200 services. So depends on requirement. You either go with implicit allow mechanism or explicit Denny mechanism. Okay, can I get a job without any certification? Certification is not mandatory, guys. See, I have certification questions. I'll show you. I have real certification questions. Okay. Even whatever the topic we discussed today, we have couple of questions related to that. Okay, where is that? Where is that? Okay, this is one question, guys. It's a practitioner certification question. So here, candidate name, we have hidden that. So gaining certification, you can, in Amirpet, everything is possible. You want certification? Yeah, I can help you. But certification won't give you job. It just like, it adds some weightage to your profile. So what is the answer for this question? What is the answer for this question? D? Sure. Option D? Yes. So least privileges means provide the permissions required to perform the given tasks. Okay. So that is one question. So how we can enhance the security of access to AWS management console? A secrets manager, we have not talked about that. Basically, secrets manager is designed to store secrets. Generally in our code, whenever you are writing any code, so username and password, we will hard code, right? Instead of that, we can have that username password in a vault. Then we can call that. So that is not something related to AWS, IAM. Certificate manager, these SSL and TLS certificates one. To use HTTPS protocol for your website. Multi-factor authentication, somewhat valid. Security groups, it's for servers only. Passport policy, set up strong passport policy, enable multi-factor authentication. With these options, you can secure your AWS account. Okay? So that is also a question. So to use CLI, users are required to generate passport policy. To use CLI, do we require passport policy? Access key and secret key. If you observe this document here, we got a access key and a secret access key, right? So these we can use to access our AWS environment. Command line interface. CLI means command line interface. So Linux operating system. In Linux, everything required a command. But in Windows, it's a graphical, right? Yeah. So this one, which of the following can be used a second factor with the AWS account? Which option we have for multi-factor authentication? The multi-factor authentication. We discussed in our last session how to enable it. See? Yes. See, I told you there is a pen drive type of device. If you connect, then only it allows you to log in. That is a U2F key, UB key, U2F key. Okay. So that is a additional factor only, right? So C is the answer here. Final question. Very difficult question. Which service help us to create users and groups, provide secure access at no cost? See, everyone? Yeah, C is the answer here. Okay, so these are some questions on the topics we discussed. Please send the Slack channel link. Naresh team is going to share that today. Whoever done the payment and all, Naresh team is going to share that Slack channel link. Okay. Document I'm going to share. The URL is going to be same. I'll generate that link. I'll upload that and I'll share it. Lab. We have a lab coordinator already. So from morning 9 o'clock to evening 4 o'clock, it's available. Just check with admin team the location and all. They will tell you where the lab is available. Okay, for today, where is that? Okay, here a couple of tasks, guys. First one, create a policy to activate MFA. So I'll show you. First of all, create an IAM user. Provide S3 full access. Provide S3 full access to this user. Okay, provide S3 full access to this user and try to activate MFA using same user. This MFA, right? It's a IAM user MFA. Whatever the IAM users we are creating here, for example, this guy is there, right? Task 1 user. If he want to enable MFA, he can go here, he can select on security credentials. So navigate to security credentials. Okay. If we scroll down bit, there is an option called multi-factor authentication. So if we give only S3 full access, we are going to get an error here. Or I'll even show you that to narrow down the task complexity. So now, whatever the guy I'm logging, this guy have S3 access only. But what I want to do this guy with this guy is, I want to allow him to enable MFA himself. So navigate here, security credentials. Okay. So when we scroll down, you see here, there is an option called MFA. So this is saying you don't have permissions. You need permission to perform this operation. Correct? So I want to fix this error. He should able to do this activation of MFA, deactivation of MFA, synchronizing the MFA, resynchronizing the MFA. So, but only this particular operation. Okay. Remaining all, it should have an errors only. This should have an error. This should have an error. But only I want to fix this error. Okay. What permissions missing? If you read this error, it will tell you. What permissions are missing? In IAM service, list MFA devices permissions are missing. If I gave this permission, if I need to create a policy now, in that policy, I need to choose service as an IAM, action as a list MFA devices. So then this error will disappear. When I click on assign MFA, again, it is giving an error, right? List MFA devices is failing. So I want to fix all the errors I'm going to get for this MFA. So I want to enable this feature. Remaining all should have an errors only. Even if this guy clicks on users, it should show errors. But MFA option only should work. That is what the task here. Create an IAM user, provide S3 full access, try to activate MFA using same user, obviously gives an error. Okay. Fix errors. So output should be this guy should be able to activate or deactivate MFA himself without administrator help or without root user help. That is a first task. Another task is create an IAM user, provide him administrator access, use same user throughout course. One more task. Okay. So whatever the user you created in task 1, try to access billing information. Try to access billing information with the user created in task 1. Obviously gives error. Right, obviously gives error. Now, allow this user to view billing information. He can view the billing information, but for that, you need to perform one additional step. What exactly that step is? Do bit R&D, Google. Jai Google Talli. Right. Just depend on Google. Right. So then try to find what option you need to enable, fix it. Okay. So then this is a task 3. Okay. Right. So these we will talk. So in the same document, at end of this document, you can find these. Okay. Here it is a tasks. I'll upload this document and I'll give this URL. Give me a second. How to raise a ticket on payment issue, account not verified. So Akhil, it's a just simple. You log into your AWS account and search for support. Go to the support page. Here you can find create case. Click on create case, accounting and billing. Select category as a billing and mention the category. Account re-instant, like invoice, marketplace, payment issues, or you can even select miscellaneous. Okay, so then click on next. So here write down what exactly issue it is giving. So then next step, like so here you have an option, web contact, phone or chat. Okay, so you can raise ticket in this manner, Akhil. If you already taken picture of the link is same. There is no change in the link. So the link is working. I just verified. If you not attended any previous session, here is the previous session links. Previous session links is here. Scroll down to the bottom. Here you can find the task. So this is a link. I'll paste it in chat box. You click on the link or you take a picture of this. You take a screenshot of this. Okay, spend some time and start doing the tasks. Okay, so any questions before closing the session? I have a question that I am a React UI developer. Just want to know how AWS could help. So if you want to promote yourself as a AWS developer, then definitely this course will help you. Okay, Rashid. So you are going to automate the things with the programming language you already know. So then you can promote yourself as a AWS developer. So this course is mainly focusing on AWS engineer, AWS administrator, AWS operations. For developers, it's just an added advantage. So you are going to do the things, but with the help of AWS services,